Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome one and all to your bi-weekly edition of The Adventure Continues, a Star Trek discussion, a show where myself and a special guest star will come on here and we will talk about a specific episode that our special guest star has selected for the evening. And tonight I am very happy and very excited to welcome Master Paul of Fandomology to the show as we will be discussing the Corbomite maneuver. Now, Master Paul does have his own channel over on the YouTube, and on his channel, he has produced videos that showcase his musical talents using his guitar, but also features a show that he did over on his YouTube channel. And that show was Tuesday Night Trek, which I was a part of for some time. And with Tuesday Night Trek, the way he did it was he went through the series for the first time, and that being the original series, through all three seasons, all 79 episodes of the original series. And that was his introduction to Star Trek, and then he moved on to the next generation, and at last count, he was at Deep Space Nine as far as watching the episodes in chronological order. Of course, he's watched the movies as well, all the original six movies. He, as far as I know, hasn't seen Generations or First Contact or Insurrection or even Nemesis, as far as I know, but we can ask him when he comes on here. But the episode that he has selected tonight is the Corbomite maneuver, where the Enterprise encounters a mysterious energy beam and, well, things ensue. So before we continue on here, I do want to say hello to Lady Mist, or as she's known on this show, Admiral Lady Mist. Good to see you, Lady Mist, and I am glad to know that you are feeling well this evening. I also want to say hello to Wolvie, the one quarter Jew. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. I hope your Saturday night is going well. And I also want to say hello to our guest from episode 7. And that particular guest is Yaron, also known as Shane. And that was a lot of fun, Shane, that we had a couple of weeks ago talking about That Which Survives and watching it. And of course, as is customary with this show, I do invite everybody to add their comments on the Corbomite maneuver. And you're also invited to join the Cosby link, which is pinned to the very top of both the YouTube and Rumble channels. And it's also pinned to the comment section of the original post over on X. So please watch, comment, give your thoughts on the episode. But before we get any further here, Transporter Room, beam Master Paul aboard.
Hello, hello, and hello from Smokey also. She decided to join me for this.
That's all right.
But yeah, thanks for having me on here, Mike. I have missed streaming with you, and it has been a long time since I have talked Star Trek on YouTube at all. So I've definitely been looking forward to this. So we're talking about the episode, The Corbomite Maneuver, tonight. And I chose that one because, as you've already said, I had a series on my channel called Tuesday Night Trek, where I was going through all of Star Trek for the first time. Hello, You're Wrong. I love that name. And I remember the Corbomite maneuver really sticking out to me in that run of me going through everything for the first time. And since then, it's become one of my most rewatched episodes of Star Trek anything. And the thing that I like about it the most, and we'll talk about it as we watch the episode, is I think that episode is one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, of showing how the command structure works aboard the Enterprise on the bridge, and especially showcasing Kirk's leadership skills on the bridge.
Very true. Very true. I mean, you do see that command structure when you first see the episode. Spock's on the bridge in command, and that's when they encounter the entity. And Kirk is having his physical in sick bay, and you start seeing that dynamic between Kirk, Bones, and Spock. And this is a very good episode of an episode that, like yourself, I don't get tired of watching it. It is one of my favorite episodes of the original series, besides Tomorrow's Yesterday. But it's true, Paul. When you get to some of these episodes, whether it be the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, because I don't know if you've gotten any further on Deep Space Nine since the last time we talked, but you do have episodes where it's like, I don't get tired of this episode. I can watch this over and over again.
And real quick, I do want to mention something too. I do want to correct something you said. I have seen Generations and First Contact, but not Insurrection and Nemesis yet.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you giving me that information.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, if you're not over on the Cosby side, please do so, as we are now going to begin tonight's episode, the Corbomite Maneuver.
Yay!
Here we go.
Oh, and this is the not special edition too. This is even better.
Yes. It's like I was telling Baron, and I also told this to Pops, when I can, I'm going to try to show the original format of the original series episodes, not special remastered edition, if I can help it, at least.
I honestly really appreciate that, because the special editions were what I was seeing the most of. And so to go back and see it in its original effects, it's like being lucky and seeing the theatrical versions of the original Star Wars trilogy. It just hits different.
And I do want to say good evening to the lovely Leia Rose. Good to see you, Leia.
Hey, Leia.
And she does say hello to you, Paul.
Nice.
And if there is any stuttering or anything, please let me know, and I'll just pause it and then we'll resume it.
Sounds good. But I do want to point something out here too. For those that don't know, this is one of only 2 episodes where Uhura is wearing the yellow uniform before they switch her to red. And I feel like this might have been explained previously, but I forget. Why did they switch her from yellow to red?
I can't remember the specific reason as to why they did that.
Well, I will say red definitely looks a lot better on her than yellow does.
Yeah. And I also want to say hello to Anonymous, who is our guest for episode 2 of The Avenger Continues, a Star Trek discussion where he and I watched the DS9 episode, Paradise.
Anonymous. Do, 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 do.
Anonymous. Do, 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 do.
And I love the franticness of the music too, as the cube just gets closer and closer.
And the Enterprise tries to use evasive maneuvers, and it's following them. But I'm glad to have everybody here tonight, and we're all here to enjoy good Star Trek.
Absolutely.
And I never skip the intro for the show.
Yeah, that's sacrilege. This is one of the best intros. I genuinely can't decide which intro to the show I like more, this one or Next Generation.
That's a good dilemma to have.
And real quick, DJ Ronnie G, I see your chat. I didn't get a haircut. My hair is just tied back. I still have the long hair.
Good to see you, DJ. I hope your Saturday has been going well.
I like what you're wrong said here in the chat, where the Corbomite maneuver only took 7 days from start to finish, and was an example of the extreme shooting schedule these actors were on.
Mm-hmm.
I had
Yeah,
no
'cause
idea it took that long.
they had to pump out these episodes.
Wow. And this guy, and of course, the Doctor himself, if I remember correctly, production chronology, this is McCoy's first appearance,
Mm-hmm.
because before that you would have had Where No Man Has Gone Before and Dr. Palmer, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it was Dr. Boyce in The Cage, Dr. Palmer in Where No Man Has Gone Before, and then we have Dr. McCoy. Still the best doctor of all Star Trek, in my opinion.
Still the best. And again, even though this would, at least production wise, be the first one with Forrest Kelly as Dr. McCoy, I think it's still a shame that NBC went with, the Man Trap as the first episode to show of Star Trek instead of Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yeah. And I think the Man Trap, if Where No Man Has Gone Before never got made, I think the Man Trap is a decent opener to the show. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a little weird that they did it out of order.
Yeah, and not a lot of people do know that NBC decided we're going to show these episodes out of order.
I think if I remember, Baron or Nerdporial, one of the two, explained it to me that they basically wanted to have a monster episode open it because they thought that would get better views.
I mean, Where No Man Has Gone Before was the first episode that we did here on The Adventure Continues. And, I really think that they should have stuck with that episode. But, back then it was all about, excitement for the ratings. You still had Westerns on TV, they were still very popular. So,
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek being the wagon train to the stars, they wanted to have something with little action, little adventure, and
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that appears to be most annoying, Mr. Bailey. Have you ever considered having it removed? Best comeback, one of the best comebacks that Spock has ever had.
mm-hmm. And you could tell that this was still one of the early episodes because Leonard Nimoy's portraying Spock like he did in the first pilot, The Cage.
Mm-hmm. Where he's a little bit louder.
Mm-hmm.
Although not as loud as he was in The Cage. In The Cage, I remember he was acting wise indistinguishable from a human, but
Mm-hmm.
in No Man Gone Before, he starts to dial it back and get more into that calm sort of Vulcan demeanor, and then that even more so here until he gets it perfect.
But we've seen that in the following series like Next Gen, DS9, and Voyager, and other series, where it does take an actor a little while to, get into their character.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Patrick Stewart as Picard, for example. It took him a couple episodes to get into that, and we had to get through. That one episode. I can't remember where Tasha Yar has to fight the one princess.
Yeah, Code of Honor.
Code of Honor. Yes, that's it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to turn my overhead lights on.
Okay. Computer lights.
And apparently DJ Ronnie G said that was a great fight scene. Eh. But I talk about that episode because just the way that Picard reacts to Tasha Yar getting abducted, it just doesn't make sense. He's just so alert all ships. Tasha Yar's been kidnapped. No shock, no whatever. Just reading
No
the
moment
lines.
of hesitation and like what's going on. And that is an episode that we're going to talk about eventually here on The Adventure Continues. And at some point, we are going to also talk about Move Along Home from Deep Space Nine.
I
And
remember reviewing
you
that one
know
with
how
you.
you know how I feel about that episode.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Okay, I love that line right there where Kirk just shuts him down. He's like, "Are you explaining?" That was like the first moment that I was like, "Okay, this is someone to be taken seriously."
Hmm. Kirk knows what his responsibility is. It's to his ship and crew.
Mhm.
Of course, this wouldn't be the last cube-shaped object that the crew of the Enterprise would encounter. Of course, that crew of the Enterprise is Next Generation, but
That is true. And I find it a little interesting that another thing I learned as I was going through this series is a lot of the terms that we associate with Star Trek, like Starfleet, Prime Directive, et cetera, a lot of those early episodes don't have those because they just hadn't been thought of yet. Like in this one, they call this the United Earth Starship Enterprise
mhm.
instead of the United Federation of Planets. Or in the Man
Or even
Trap,
the Federation Starship Enterprise. They
yeah.
were still trying to establish a lot of things.
Or in the Man Trap, Spock saying use serum when we learn in another episode he can literally probe minds.
Hmm. And a lot of the development for the Vulcans did come from DC Montana, and she did a wonderful job, even though she had to, hide the fact that she was a woman writing for a show because this was back in the '60s, and it wasn't really accepted at the time.
Right. And she did an amazing job.
And then Anonymous says, I think they needed to face down a rhombus shape object.
Makes sense. And I like how You're Wrong in the chat says it's funny how off the cuff a lot of this was. Nobody had any concept of a fandom like yeah, fandom like Star Trek
Hmm.
before. And I'm sure there was a lot of off the cuff stuff too, as far as how the actors portrayed it.
Exactly. You know, who would have known back in '66 when this and a lot of the other episodes from the first season going into '67 had aired that this would spawn the large fandom that it did. Nobody knew that.
Mhm. Exactly. And I love seeing the shots of everyone, you know, trying to say like the ship's rocking, and they just go
Hmm.
all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. Unlike in Next Generation, where the camera's shaking, the actors are moving around, and
Yeah. Or like the animated series where they just recycle the same shot of everyone falling over allegedly.
mhm. Have you been able to watch any episodes of the animated series?
No, I haven't. Like, I know at one point, don't play with that cat. I know at one point we were going to be watching it for Tuesday Night Trek after we got done with the original series. But
Mhm.
Nerdporial wanted to show me Star Trek Continues, which if anyone has not watched that, highly recommend it. But
Yes.
from there, Star Trek Continues sets up the motion picture perfectly that we just kind of glossed over the animated series.
Yeah, I think it would have been interesting if we had gotten more seasons of the animated series other than the two that the show actually received. 11 episodes for each season.
Yeah. I do know in one episode there is a giant Spock that somehow is a thing.
Yes.
I
The
love
Infinite
this
Vulcan,
scene too, by the
which
way,
was written
where
by Walter Koenig.
oh really?
Yes. But go on
I
with
didn't
what you were saying about the scene.
this scene here where again a nuanced thing, but the way that Kirk is just rubbing his brow like I've had it with all this incompetence. And he just like, why are we even going through this stuff? Or at least that's how I took it.
Well, I mean, think about it. He wants everybody to be ready to do their jobs at a moment's notice. You never know what the Enterprise is going to encounter out there.
Hmm. And of course, what Dr. McCoy is saying here about how Kirk promoted Bailey too fast and put him into a position that he wasn't ready for, that's spot on right there.
Mm-hmm. This episode does a good job at giving you Kirk's thought process and how things should be run on board the Starship Enterprise.
Hmm. And of course, a little callback to the cage where sometimes your doctor is also your bartender.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that I really appreciate, not just about this episode, but also just at least all of the original series, period. It's there in Next Generation 2, but at least to me, less so, is that yeah, this is the future. Yeah, these people are going out into space and meeting other planets, other races, etc. But at the end of the day, they're still just people. They talk like people. They act
Mm-hmm.
like people. They don't act like fake characters. Like I look at William Shatner on the screen here and I do not see William Shatner. I see Kirk. I don't see DeForest Kelly. I see McCoy. I don't see
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Nimoy. I see Spock, etc.
Yeah, and another thing that really helps, not just the original series, but the series that followed up until 2005, was the fact that they didn't put any modern terms of language into the scripts.
Hmm.
They tried to make it timeless.
Yeah. And well, I haven't even touched any of New Trek, but from what I've heard, it's actually that's not quite true. I did walk in on one of my individuals watching the remake of Balance of Terror from Strange New Worlds.
Hmm.
And I was like, I get what y'all are trying to do, but this just doesn't feel the same as the original one. Like they're even like
Exactly.
they're
When you
quoting
see
direct
when
lines, but it just doesn't
Mhm.
work.
No, because when you see their episode, it's hollow.
Hmm.
You can't remake something that was already done and done well.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and tell you this one now. If you had already done Corbomite maneuver, Balance of Terror was gonna be my second pick.
Well, I'm glad we hadn't gotten to Corbomite maneuver yet. But again, with this, I try to make sure that the guest knows. No, You're the guest. You decide what episode from one of the series that we talk about, one of the 6 series, whether you want to talk about the animated series, we can talk about an episode from the animated series, of course, original series. We've got a couple episodes of Next Generation, of course, Paradise from Deep Space Nine. I haven't done any Voyager episodes yet, but you know, I want the guests to have a good time. But getting to the episode, I love that exterior shot where you see the orb first show up, and you see how
Mhm.
massive it is compared to the size of the Enterprise.
And I'm gonna say this too, I like the way that they portray it in the not special edition way better than the special edition. It
Yeah.
looks I mean, it looks less three-dimensional than it does in the special edition, but that's also, I think, works in its favor. It makes it, at least to me, look more intimidating.
Mhm. Well, that's one of the things that Baron and I were talking about when we were discussing the Doomsday Machine. The original version just looks so much better than the HD remasters.
I agree.
And Shane says, "Did you guys watch the video of Shatner ripping on Strange New Worlds?" No. Do you have the link for that?
Yeah, I wanna see this. But while he's sending that, this scene here, I love how the Enterprise is obviously threatened by this huge entity that's bigger than them, but Kirk's first response is still to try and engage in peaceful dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Diplomacy first. Lasers and photon torpedoes only when necessary.
Mhm. I gotta also point out just how much Nichelle Nichols says hailing frequencies open just in this episode, to the point
Mm-hmm.
where she ad-libbed, I think, a line in Mantrap where she says, "If I hear the word frequency one more time, I feel like I'm gonna cry."
I mean, that's essentially all she really had in these early episodes was hailing frequency open. We're getting a message from Starfleet Captain, hailing Starfleet Captain.
Mhm. And it's good that they expanded her role as the series went on, to where, if I'm not mistaken, there's an episode in the animated series where she takes control of the Enterprise
You're
because
correct.
something happens to all the male crew members.
You are correct.
And another thing too, I love how Bailey just looks completely overwhelmed by all of this stuff too. And it really shows that, yeah, he's in over his head here.
Mhm. Well, also, this object that they've encountered poses a threat to the Enterprise. It could easily destroy the Enterprise if it wanted to. So, you're in that situation, and you don't want to be the person that hits the wrong button that dooms your ship.
Yeah. Also, real quick, sorry for any background noise. My cat's got one of her scratching posts on the
Oh,
floor.
no worries, no worries. And I'm gonna go ahead and put that link into the chat that Yaron provided to me. Thank you for that, Shane. Really appreciate it. So let me put in the private chat for you, Paul, and then I'll put it into the chat for everybody else.
Thank you.
And thanks once again, Shane. Really appreciate it, brother.
I love that line right there. There's no such thing as the unknown, only things temporarily unknown or hidden. And I like how he's trying to use that as like a this is why we're out here. You know, there's no need to be afraid or
Hmm.
discouraged.
Yeah, I mean, as a commanding officer, you have to be able to calm your people down. Lead by
Mhm.
example.
Exactly. Now I've always been confused about what this was. Is it like feedbacking their comm system or something?
I, it could be feedbacking the comm system. It could also be the aliens' response to Kirk's message, trying to encourage Kirk and the Enterprise to leave the area.
Hmm. Hold on a second. I just saw a error in the episode. When McCoy came on to the ship, it's onto the bridge,
Hmm.
he was wearing the normal blue uniform. But just now, when they were showing, like right there, he's wearing his actual doctor's uniform. I've never noticed that before.
And see that's an example of pointing out something that you've never noticed before, which is something I do ask all my guests to do when they're watching an episode along with us. See something that you never noticed, point it out.
Exactly. So there you go, guys. Little Easter egg for you if you've never seen that before.
He's
And of
panicking.
course, yep. And there's McCoy not wearing it anymore, not wearing that uniform
Hmm.
anymore. He's wearing his other one.
Which is
I
not
mean,
uncommon for television production or even a movie production to have production errors, but it's up to us fans to point it out.
yeah. And what we just watched here, Bailey's meltdown. I mean, think about it. You're the navigator of a ship, which is already a stressful job in its own right. You're in over your head, barely qualified for it, and you're faced with a situation where you feel like something needs to be done, but there's really nothing that can be done. And that just doesn't sit
Hmm.
right with you.
No, because it's not like the Enterprise can attack. Because if the Enterprise attacks, then the Enterprise can be destroyed.
Right. But of course, he was still out of line with his behavior, and Kirk had to tell him to get out of there.
Hmm. You can't risk having anybody in a position where it might jeopardize the crew, the ship, and who knows who
Yeah.
else.
That's probably, in my opinion, the third best freak out that's ever happened on that Enterprise bridge. The only two that beat it is McCoy when he gets hopped up on all those drugs in
Hmm.
the one episode where they go back to the past, and then
Yeah,
Kirk when he's body swapped with that one girl, and he's like, "You will obey my orders."
I mean when Kirk has to go back in time with Spock to get McCoy, and McCoy's going assassins, murderers.
Hmm.
The dilemma that Spock and Kirk are faced. What if they don't get McCoy in time? Then the timeline itself changes because they already experienced a change in the timeline when they beamed down and the Enterprise was no longer there.
Yeah. And of course, the line that just played here, Scotty saying, "You have an annoying fascination for timepieces, Mr. Sulu."
Hmm.
I love it. Now, in this scene here with Kirk and Spock talking, I didn't realize until recently that Spock only halfway says, I'm sorry, but then switches it to say, I regret that I can find no other alternative. I didn't realize this when I first saw it, but since I've realized that that was his human side just barely slipping out in that moment before
Mm-hmm.
he caught it.
Always trying to be the stoic, non-emotional Vulcan.
Hmm. And of course, arguments like this are why later versions of the Enterprise and other ships have a ready room so that
Yeah.
two officers can tear their heads off and not have an audience. But again, with that argument, was either of them really in the wrong?
You can see both of their points. You can see
Exactly,
Kirk's
Kirk.
point. You can see Spock's point, and of course, the episode that you're talking about with McCoy getting drugged up was the city on the edge of forever.
Thank you. You're wrong is saying in the chat, this episode was so important to establishing the big three's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, absolutely. And this is another example too. The whole Corbomite thing that Kirk's coming up with. Another great example of him just thinking on the fly and just BSing someone completely, but somehow making it work.
Mm-hmm.
The other instance of this that I can think of where it goes even crazier was in I Mud. No, that's not it. Yeah, I Mud, I think it's called, where he's on that planet with all the androids and they just completely fry their circuits by doing crazy random stuff to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, think about it. As much as Picard was good at diplomacy, Kirk was good at diplomacy, but he was also good at BSing if he had to.
Mhm. Exactly. To the point that even Spock picked up on it some and used it in that 1 2-parter that he was in Next Generation. I can't remember the name of it.
Unification Part 1 and 2.
Yes, that's it.
Because, Spock in Unification Part 2 says to Data, it's time to use some cowboy diplomacy. Of
Mhm.
course, I'm only paraphrasing. I'm not saying exactly how he said it, but
Right. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this episode also where we get the first mention of Spock having a human mother? Whether it's production-wise or release order?
I think it is, but I don't want to stand by it 100%.
Anyone in the chat that knows, help us out here.
I mean, that's also something I've discussed with Baron and a few other people. You know what? 735 episodes from 66 to 2005. Some of the details get a little fuzzy because you've watched so many episodes and you've seen so many plot lines that are similar that it's not always easy to keep track of. Okay, no, this happened in this episode and that happened in that episode, or that happened on this series.
Mhm. And I also have a lot of respect for Bailey in this scene where he realizes he was out of line, but also thinks he's about to die. And he's like, you know what? I don't want to die in my quarters. Let me go face up to the captain and ask to return to my post.
Hmm.
And I think Kirk in that moment knew that Bailey knew, okay, I went too far. I'm here to be a good officer now.
I'm here to do my duty.
Mm-hmm. But this is ultimately the biggest reason why I like this episode. Every person on this bridge has a role, and we see them executing out that role.
Hmm.
Whether it's Sulu at the helm, Bailey at the navigation chair, Kirk, of course, as captain, Spock, McCoy, Uhura,
Scotty.
Scotty, all of them. They play their parts perfectly in this episode. Even if their full scope of their responsibilities isn't showcased in this. Like, we don't really see Scotty doing much engineering stuff, but what he does do in this, he really sells it.
Hmm. And you got to give credit to Jimmy Doohan for being able to sell it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And Anonymous says Scotty should be in the engine room.
Yeah, he's got FOMO. But then again, can you blame him if you're an officer that can be on the bridge of the Enterprise? Wouldn't you want to be there too?
Of course. I mean, well, wouldn't you love to go to either Vic Mignogna's or one of the other recreated original series bridge sets and sit there in the captain's chair, or
Yes,
go to Sulu's
absolutely.
station, go to Chekhov's station, go to communications, go to science, go to engineering.
Yeah, that's genuinely a bucket list of mine at some point. In fact, if I ever get my wife into Star Trek, that's one thing that I'd like to do with her. Both of us dress up in Star Trek uniforms and go to one of these recreations of the set. I mean,
Hmm.
we've kind of done that already with Harry Potter stuff at Universal.
I bet that was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was way better than Galaxy's Edge as far as like making you feel like you were in the universe.
Yeah, I just entered a contest for Universal to win round trip airfare and transportation to go to Universal Studios Orlando and have one day at Epic Universe. I thought that'd be pretty fun.
I hope you get that, man.
I,
But once the stream's over, I have another way that you might be able to go that I think you'll find is pretty cool. It's how me and my wife went last time, and we're going again this year.
nice, very nice.
Okay, so
And
here's another part that confused me about this
okay,
episode. If Baylock, spoiler alert, of course, for those that don't know, was only on that little tiny ship that just pulled out, what was the point of the whole giant orb? Was all of that Baylock, or was that like multiple of his species that was all clustered together?
it could be multiple species that was clustered together. It could also be a tactic to strike fear and anxiety in the Enterprise crew. They see this massive object coming at them and stopping them from going on about their business. Maybe they'll reverse course and head back to where they were going.
Hmm. DJ Ronnie G says in the chat, it's a hologram that Starfleet sensors can't detect.
Hmm.
Is there even such a thing in Star Trek? Hey, get down from that.
Well, I mean, the only thing the Federation is able to do, at least Voyager was able to do it for an episode, was put hollow emitters on the hull to project other ships, even though they weren't actually there.
True. Also, if you were wondering what I was saying, hey, get down from there. My cat was trying to play with the banners here behind me.
They're feisty at that age.
She's just over 1 years old, and she is every bit a hellspawn.
Mhm.
And I like how, at least in these earlier episodes, And again, this is something that I feel kind of gets lost with other episodes as they go forward into other shows. But I like how the captain's log aren't just a recount of things that have happened, but Kirk's innermost thoughts, like the whole question, will he grow careless thing.
Hmm. Is
They
the
kind of,
tractor beam taking too much power away from such a small ship?
right. Like, I don't know if you noticed it, but it seems like as the episodes go out further, and especially when we get into like Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, they really cap the captain's logs at only one an episode, maybe two.
Yeah, you do see it. I mean, you see it generally after a commercial break, just like the original series. But I like it when the show comes back and the captain or one of the senior officers of the main cast gives you a log to give you their thoughts on what's going on in the situation.
Yeah. Like in my mind, the more captain's logs that there are, then the better, as long as like you don't overdo it.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the issues you could have is overdoing the logs. You know, put them in there to where they make sense, where
Mhm.
they're key to the episode. Okay, did you hear what Kirk said there in that last line? Obviously, they've been working on something off camera, off screen that they're gonna try to implement.
Anonymous in the chat saying, "Have you checked the bathroom for captain's logs?" Or at the risk of sounding even more dirty, have you checked the planet's female population for a captain's log?
And it's good to see Blazerhawk Darren beam aboard.
Yep.
How are you doing tonight?
He was with my, gaming stream earlier.
Nice. If you like Blazerhawk, you can join the Cosme side and watch the episode with us.
Now, I do kinda gotta wonder, acknowledging that this is mid to late '60s technology they're working with here, do you think they had the technology to, like, actually shake the room in real time with that? Or is that all the actors just shaking themselves?
I think it's all the actors shaking themselves.
And then
Because
slanting the
if it
camera a
was
little bit.
a modern production, they probably would have put hydraulics underneath the stage and had the stage shaking as they're doing the scene. They've done that for a couple of Next Generation movies. One of them being Generations, the other being Nemesis, and
Yeah, DJ's explaining in the chat. Thank you.
I could have sworn they also put hydraulics underneath the stage for Generations, for when the sausage section was crashing on Viridian 3.
Maybe. Let me know what you find with that, DJ. And I like how, again, a show of the merciful side of Kirk, where
Mhm.
yeah, these guys had previously captured them, but if they're injured, he still has that responsibility to render aid.
Yeah. I mean, for as much as people like to say Kirk was shoot first, ask questions later, we're seeing here that's not always the case.
Hmm. Like it's stuff like this that genuinely make people, and I tend to agree, say that Kirk is the best of all of the captains.
Well, this is just my opinion. Everybody has their opinions on the captains,
Hmm.
but when it comes to Kirk, he's on a pedestal on his own.
Agreed.
And then when it comes to the spin-off series, Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise, Cisco's at the top.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, me personally, my favorite captain so far is Picard, but even
Mhm.
I will concede that he is not as good of a captain. I mean, he's a good captain in his own way, but Kirk to me beats him out. And it kind of, and of course they have two different philosophies, which is why they clashed when they did when they met in Generations.
Mhm.
And I still
Kirk
love
has
that
his way of
line.
doing things. Picard has his way of doing things, just like you and I have our way of doing things that are different.
Exactly. And of course, I love the line, I'm probably gonna get it wrong, that he says in Generations, "Never let them take the captain's chair away from you."
Yeah, because Kirk says to Picard, "How close are you to promotion?" And Picard says, "I'm not planning on it." And then Kirk says, "Don't let them promote you. Don't let them do anything that takes you off the bridge of that ship because while you're there, you can make a difference."
Exactly.
And it's good to see Redstone. How you been, brother? Good to see you, man. If you'd like to watch the episode along with us, the Cosme link is pinned to the top of the chat over on Rumble.
And talk about a good plot twist right here too, the idea that the quote unquote Baylock that we had been seeing on the screen was just a dummy.
Hmm. And of course, this is Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother.
Mhm. Now, remind me, does Clint Howard is he actually someone with dwarfism, or was this just like makeup and special effects?
I think it was makeup and special effects.
Okay. And I remember in the roast of Will Shatner, they bring him back as Baylock to poke fun at him.
Hmm. Have you watched Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me?
It's been a while, but yes.
All right, so you know when they're in the radar room and they're looking at Doctor Evil's spaceship that's going up into orbit, and they're saying it looks like a giant this, that, and the other. Well,
Mhm.
he's the radar tech, Clint Howard.
Oh, gotcha.
Of course, Clint Howard would also show up on Deep Space Nine. It'd also show up on Enterprise.
And I gotta this was another detail that I didn't notice until doing a little bit of a recap on this episode in prep for this stream.
Hmm.
The three, Kirk, McCoy, and Bailey, think that the drink is poisoned when really it isn't, and Baylock has to prove it to them by he drinking first.
Hmm. And of course, yes, you can tell that his voice is being dubbed over by another actor
Mm-hmm.
because Clint Howard was just a kid when this was made.
Right. And I like what You're Wrong says in the chat here that Kirk was the right kind of captain for the wild frontier. By Picard's time, the Federation was a far more bureaucratic and diplomatic in nature. And that's
Hmm.
reflected perfectly in the different ships too. You have the original Enterprise, NCC 1701, which was definitely more of a battle ready ship than the Enterprise D, in spite of its stronger firepower, because the Enterprise D had whole families and schools and such on it too.
And Redstone over on Rumble says, I highly recommend watching Doctor Who from the beginning in order from 63 till 66, then watching original Trek at the same time in order, seeing not only TV history, but technology, but also how each series borrowed from each other. Yeah, it's not unheard of
Hmm.
different shows and movies borrowing elements from another series. It still
Right.
goes on.
Hmm. But I did try and get into Doctor Who once upon a time. In fact, I was going to make a stream out of it, but it just didn't really stick.
Yeah.
But I will definitely have to give it another try or something.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it, especially the earlier episodes. And you want to get into newer Doctor Who. I thought Christopher Eccleston deserved more than what he got, and he only got one season compared to what David Tennant received, and Matt Smith, and then someone who I felt that really got robbed when he was the Doctor was Peter Capaldi.
Hmm. And then, of course, that one lady joins, and it all just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, yeah. And real quick, I do want to say hello to the Comic Relief Crusader. Good to see you, Mike. How you been, brother?
Hello.
How are things going, man? So, Paul, we just finished the Corbomite maneuver, and what are
Hmm.
your thoughts on it? Again, I know this is an episode that you've watched multiple times before, but after watching it here again, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I've lost count of how many times I've watched this episode now, but it still holds up just as well as the first time I watched it. It has lost absolutely nothing for me. This is still an amazing episode. In fact, personally, it's my pick for which episode to start with if you want like the truest essence of what Star Trek is. Either this episode or Balance of Terror, where you get to see the Enterprise operating as it should be, with like the command structure, Kirk being in command, Spock doing his job, um, et cetera, et cetera, but also seeing how they handle the different conflicts and threats that come at them from the spaces that they're exploring. And in this
Hmm.
episode specifically, Balok's ship, how they handled that and how they were able to diffuse the situation with really not firing a single shot except for the one at the fake decoy,
Hmm.
just purely by wits and bluffing Balok. Like, I think the whole poker thing, the poker analogy, was a perfect analogy for this.
Yeah, poker, chess, you name it. It was a game of one-upsmanship,
Hmm.
but do it in such a way where it didn't put the Enterprise in any further danger.
Exactly. And like I said, everyone else on the bridge, from Sulu to Scotty to Uhura, all played their part well, and Bailey especially played his part well as the ensign that was, or lieutenant, one of the two, that was completely new to the bridge and was out of place and didn't think he could handle it until, he realized just how ill prepared he was, and he got his act together.
That's the
And
thing. You never.
honestly, oh, go for it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, honestly, this might be a bit of a hot take here. I would have given Bailey more screen time, even if that meant sacrificing the character of Chekhov. because I would want to see, even when he came back from Balak's ship, I'd want to see him continue to grow into that role and become potentially captain material in his own right somewhere down the road.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you would have liked to have seen Bailey become the next cast member in season 2 instead of creating a whole new character in Chekhov just so that you can make everybody happy.
Right.
I mean, it would have worked. Fans would have already known who he was. They could have
Hmm.
really developed his character, but
I mean, you could have also done the same thing with Riley or Styles too.
true,
Or
true.
heck, bring all three and just rotate them through.
Or, it would have been interesting to see had they not fired Grace Lee Whitney if Yeoman Rand had been added as the main character in the second season.
Yeah, I could see that. And I also see where Anonymous is coming from here. Bailey wasn't funny looking or sounding enough. Yeah, I mean, Styles had his terminal pissed off nature at Spock about him, and Riley had a funny singing voice when he's drunk.
Hmm.
So they had that working for him, and Bailey didn't really.
But again, one thing about this episode, which you have brought up already, is it shows the importance of the command structure on board any ship.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
captain's only good as his crew, and the ship's only as good as the crew and the captain.
exactly. And again, looking at that scene where Bailey loses his cool and starts going off, any lesser captain maybe would have relieved Bailey the way that Kirk did, but would have been a little bit more wishy-washy about it and trying to be like, okay, calm down first, when maybe that might not have worked, instead of being like, you go.
Cisco might have, taken someone like Bailey and said, "Mister, I need you to perform your duty. If you cannot perform your duty, then I will assign you elsewhere."
Yeah. Picard may be the same thing, but no, Kirk was the right one to handle that situation, the way it was presented.
Mm-hmm. So he realized that Bailey was out of his element, so he thought that the best course of action, okay, let him go to his quarters, cool down. When he's ready to come back on duty, he'll come back.
Exactly.
And that gives credit to Kirk knowing his people. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
this is only the 10th episode into the original series, but you're already establishing Kirk knows his personnel, all
Exactly.
400 of them.
Yeah, and that is something that I know for a fact gets lost in, say, Next Generation, because a bigger ship like the Enterprise D requires a bigger crew, and the captain simply can't know everyone the same way that Kirk does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember that one episode where Riker is temporarily assigned to the Klingon bird of prey, and in his
Mm-hmm.
place, another guy
The Bensonite.
is, yeah, he comes to the ship and tries to engage with the captain, but he's like, look, dude, we have a chain of command. You need to go to Worf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go
I
through
like,
go through the command structure. If Worf is the officer that you report to, then you report to him. Then Worf will report to either Commander Data or Commander Riker, and one of them will report to Captain Picard.
mm-hmm. And that's another good point, Anonymous. Picard would have definitely done that. Asked him to go
Mm-hmm.
see Counselor Troy or Guinan, let's be honest.
Yeah, he would have gone to 10 forward, talked to Guinan, and if that didn't work, talk to Troy, and Troy would have said, "And how are you feeling? What are your feelings telling you?"
Yeah. I mean, we make fun of it, but the ship's counselor position in general was definitely a needed position on the Enterprise D, even if it was questionable in how it was executed as far as the show's writing, let's be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't very good, and yeah, I know we gave you a hard time about liking Troy and stuff,
I
but
still
I
stand
I
by
was I
that.
was I was there as a teenager too. I loved her as a teenager. I'll admit it.
I gotcha.
I
But
I, I
yeah,
can't deny that fact.
but yeah, like I get it though. The role just wasn't executed well for her, but given better, I wouldn't even say a different actress, better writing, the ship's counselor job could have been portrayed way better than it was. But again, getting back to this show, McCoy also fills that role of ship's counselor really, really well. And I remember someone telling me, I want to say it was Nerdporial, when I was going through this show for the first time, that initially the writers wanted to have an actual chaplain on the ship, but Gene Roddenberry, being an atheist, wasn't cool with that. And so they gave the ship's doctor some of the more philosophical roles too, of like
Hmm.
speaking inspiration into the crew and such like that. And I think,
Well, it goes back to what Boyd said to Pike in the cage. Sometimes, you know, you'll tell your bartender what you won't tell your doctor,
mm-hmm,
and
exactly.
we saw that in this episode. You know, McCoy wasn't acting as the ship's doctor; he was acting more as the bartender and saying, "All right, Jim, what's really going on in that head of yours?"
Exactly. And of course everyone played their role. Every actor played their role perfectly in this. Even Spock, as he was figuring out how to portray a Vulcan, he still knocked it out the park in this episode.
Mhm. Now, what I've included onto the Cosby side, at least I will be doing that here shortly. Let me actually take that away from StreamYard side, but I'll be sharing this with you all shortly over on the Cosby side is the link to William Shatner talking about Strange New Worlds, one of their latest episodes that they did.
Here we go.
Yeah, so let's hear Mr. Shatner's reaction to this. I'm making sure that I have it all the way up so everybody can hear it, and I'll make sure that the captions are on too. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and press play, everybody.
All right, let's do this. Is it playing on your end? Because all I see is the play button and a circle around it.
It's buffering for you. What you could
Okay,
try to
I
do
gotcha.
is try to leave the Cosme link, then come back in.
All right, stand by.
I'll just restart it. Here. I'll stop sharing and then I'll reshare. Hold on,
All right, I'm
everybody.
back.
All right, let's try this again. Take two, and I'll hit play. You know what this is? You know what this is, Shane? This is the writers of New Trek poking fun at what came before. Well, without what
Mm-hmm.
came before, you wouldn't be able to write your version of Star Trek.
Exactly.
All right, let's see what Shatner has to say. We can't give them our brain cells. Hate to tell the writers of New Trek, you don't have any brain cells. You can't write any Star Trek that is actually compelling, actually makes us use our thought processes and think to ourselves, did the captain make the right move? Was that the right choice in this episode for Spock to go down with the away team and
And
mind
you're
meld
not
with that creature?
and you're not safe either, Star Wars. This applies to you too.
Mm-hmm. And let me see. Oh, that's just Anonymous's comment from earlier.
Oh, come on. That was stupid. Kirk didn't even do that. That's a Riker
No,
thing.
no, and the thing is, this episode was directed by one Jonathan Frakes.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. He's been complacent when it comes to New Trek because he's directed multiple episodes. It's like, hey, it's a directing gig. It's money. I don't care. Even though he knows what Trek is really about.
I'm disappointed beyond words at that.
I am too. I mean, heck, if you want to build a set that at least looks close enough to the original set, look at what they did on DS9 for
Mhm.
Trials and Tribulations, or even in Relics.
Or Star Trek
Where,
continues.
mm-hmm, in the Mirror Darkly, an episode of Enterprise, when you get to that, you'll see that they recreated the original series bridge.
Mhm.
But if you haven't subscribed to Major Grimm, subscribe to him, because he'll take anything from New Trek that just doesn't make sense and put in clips from, you know, the original series, Next Generation, DS9, whatever show that happened between 66 and 2005, and he'll put a clip in that fits for what he's trying to get across. It's like now in New Trek they have a female Jem'Hadar, and
I saw that.
yeah, and there's an episode of Deep Space Nine where Jem'Hadar tells Captain Sisko, "There are no female Jem'Hadar."
Well, what can you do? Just, I guess, not watch it.
Yeah, and that's what I've chosen to do. I gave Discovery 3 seasons. I said I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
This isn't real Trek. And Anonymous is asking, is this like an alternate universe or what? What looks like a TV show inside a TV show that's making fun of the original, like Wormhole Extreme or SG-1. This is an actual episode from Strange New Worlds. They thought it'd be cute and clever to have an episode like this. I find nothing cute nor clever about it.
Yeah, not at all. That was as Mr. Shatner said, that was insulting.
Hmm.
It's and like you said, it's funny when they're able to poke fun at what came before them when they wouldn't exist without what came before them. And that's not to say that early Trek and such is perfect. There's obviously flaws to it. But you still need to be grateful for what those things did to allow the current Trek to be here instead of
Hmm.
just crapping on it as if it was completely irredeemable trash.
Which that's something that the original series is not. It's not irredeemable trash. It's something that we're still discussing today. We're discussing tonight in one of
Mhm.
the better episodes of the original series.
Yeah, it's flawed but sincere.
It's because the writers and the actors had talent back then.
Mhm.
And you needed talent to be able to write a science fiction series like Star Trek. You needed science fiction writers to come on and write different episodes.
Exactly.
But is there anything else you want to say about the Corbomite maneuver, Paul?
It's just a great episode. And like I said, if you have never seen Star Trek and you're thinking about dipping your toes into it, watch this episode first, or Balance of Terror. That's my recommendation over even The Cage or The Man Trap. But that's just me. And also, off topic, I obviously wasn't online for this, but I do want to say rest in peace to Hulk Hogan and especially Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, us 80s kids and those who grew up in the 90s, early 2000s really did take a hit this last week. I mean, losing Hulk Hogan, losing Ozzy Osbourne, Chuck
Yeah.
Mangione, losing him. And then, of course, for those of us who followed the Cubs and, grew up watching Ryan Sandberg, losing him earlier this week. It's been tough, and DJ says it's worse than Captain Proton. Yeah, but at least with the Captain Proton stuff on Voyager, you understood why it was done in the episode and why it was in the holodeck, because Tom Paris was a big fan of classic movies and TV. So it had a
Okay.
point. It was part of the character development. And DJ says diplomacy, social dynamics, those are two buzz terms I'd use in reference to this episode. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all they've been doing since New Trek has been around since 2017. Hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I unfortunately do have to get to bed and get up for church in the morning.
All right. But before you go, is there anything you'd like to promote for your channel? Anyone you'd like to promote? And
Well,
before we get out of here?
Unfortunately, no, not really, other than the fact that I am trying still to figure out my rhythm to get back into streaming. I do miss streaming with you guys, whether it's here on this channel or having you guys on my own. So I guess the best thing I can say is just don't completely abandon Fandomology yet. There will be more coming down the pipeline.
Awesome. And you can catch all of Paul's previous live streams and video uploads on his channel currently. I'm putting the links into the chat again right now, so just bear with me as I put the links in there.
Thanks, man.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul, and thank you for taking the time to join me tonight and talk about this great episode from the original series and just show why we still enjoy talking about not only good Star Trek, but watching good Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, of course, tell Baron and Cash I said hello, and tell Cash I'm still playing on easy mode.
I will make sure that Cash gets that message, because Cash is gonna burst a blood vessel.
I know it's all in good fun, of course.
Yeah, it is. And that's all it was ever meant to be, was just in good fun.
Of course,
you play the games the way you want to play. I'll play the games the way I want to play. I know. I die a lot. I know.
It's okay. Although my brother Jonathan has recently challenged me to play Elden Ring on stream, I might be looking into that.
Ooh, that's a difficult game, Paul. But I know you can do it.
Happens.
I know you can do it, man.
We'll see what happens.
Again, Paul, thank you very much for being here tonight. I do want to thank everyone who was able to stop by tonight. Of course, the first person I do want to thank is Admiral Lady Mist. Thank you, Lady Mist. Really appreciate it. We also had Leia Rose here tonight. DJ Ronnie G was here tonight, as was Anonymous. You're Wrong, also known as Shane. Blazerhawk Darren was here. We had Red Snom over on the Rumble side, so good to see you there, brother. It's been a while. And also the Comic Relief Crusader. Good to see you, brother. I know it's been a while, and I know you've been busy. I know you have a new job, but it's always good to see you, brother. And
Absolutely.
let me just make sure I didn't miss anybody. Because if I did miss somebody, I do apologize.
Looks like
And
you got everyone that I can see on my
I
end.
I think I did. I think I did. But again, everybody, thank you for joining Master Paul of Fandomology and myself tonight for episode number 9. I mean 8. I'm already thinking toward the future, Paul.
Hey, that's
But
perfectly fine.
episode number 8 of the Adventure Continues Star Trek discussion. Now, as far as episode 9 is concerned, I do have a guest who I've been communicating with. I just have to find out from that guest which episode we are going to be watching and discussing. But that next episode of The Adventure Continues will occur on August 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And as far as what else is coming up on the channel, tomorrow will be the Sunday edition of Pacific Forum for Pop Talk with Baron and myself. Cash, unfortunately, has family responsibilities. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but he's got family responsibilities that he's got to take care of, so he will not be able to join us. And Baron and I will definitely be talking about the topics I have lined up for tomorrow's episode. One of them being about DreamWorks saying if you use any of our work from the Bad Guys 2 to train AI, we're going to come after you legally.
Interesting.
Yes. So that'll be one of the topics we'll talk about tomorrow, along with the weekend box office to see what exactly Fantastic Four First Steps has done in its second week of release. And then, of course, take a look at Superman to see what it's done, going on almost 4 weeks in release. Not quite there yet, but we'll see what those two movies have done. Of course, you had some new releases, and one of them being the Naked Gun reboot, the Seth MacFarlane Naked Gun, starring Leslie Nielsen.
Liam Neeson, you
And
mean?
yeah, I was. You see where my mind's going? I'm thinking of the classic, and
Right.
yeah, yeah. Because honestly, folks, I don't think the Naked Gun had to be remade, but we will be taking a look at that tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Then, of course, on Tuesday, I'll be playing more Rise of the Ronin at 6 p.m. Eastern on the channel. We'll have our Wednesday edition of Pop Talk, of course, at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And then Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, I'll be playing more Robocop Rogue City Unfinished Business. So until then, everybody, make sure that you go over to Paul's channel, you hit that subscribe button, and if you haven't done so already, share out the stream. Greatly appreciate it. And until next time, remember, don't ever give up on me in a game, because just when you do, you might miss something. And for this show, live long and prosper.
And he's also not just a baseball guy, he's an all-round guy.
That was my old outro.
I know, but I still like it.
Yeah. I mean, I should have said it Tuesday, but I decided not to.
Yeah.
But you know what? You know what that proves? Paul remembers.
I do. Someone proved that to my wife.
Have a good night, everybody.